Thinking about GLP-1s to help with weight loss? Go micro with Noom. You start off with a small dose of medication, then gradually increase as your body reacts. The Noom GLP-1 microdose program starts at $79 and is delivered to your door in 7 days. Start your microdose GLP-1 journey today at Noom.com. That's Noom.com. Noom. Micro changes, big results. Initial 3-week subscription and 4 weeks of medication from $79 plus tax, and $179 per month plus tax for 7-week subscription thereafter. Final pricing depends on program selection.
Why you do not stay true to yourself. You already know what to do, so why do you hesitate? There is a moment where clarity is there, yet something within you pauses. You feel it in your body, you question it in your mind, and you hold back your actions. Today's episode looks at what is actually happening in that moment and how your internal alignment shapes your response. Welcome back to Unbox the podcast. I'm Sahar Hunaidi Palmer, and this season is the courage to be you. Show up, stay true. Before I get into today's topic, I want to share something that stayed with me the past week. My aunt Aida passed away last Wednesday. She was very close to me since my growing up years. And what struck me as I reflected on her life is that she was always the same person. Consistent in how she spoke, how she showed up, how she reacted and responded to life. There was no difference between who she was internally and how she expressed herself. I hadn't fully realized how present she had been in my life until I reflected back. I traveled with her often, spent long periods living with her, and even when I moved between countries, there was a pattern of following her path without consciously deciding it. As I reflect on that this week, I understood something very clearly. She was anchored in herself. There was no adjustments. Depending on the situation, there were no adjustments, no shifts depending on who she was with. And that is exactly what I want to talk to you about today. So, how do we recognize the problem? Why don't you stay true to yourself in certain situations? You reach a point where you understand yourself, you recognize your patterns, you have become clearer in your thinking. And yet, in certain situations, you don't stay in that space. You notice yourself reacting, you notice your emotions rising, you notice that you're adjusting to the situation. In other words, you notice a shift in how you think, feel, and act. So the question isn't about clarity. The question is about stability. Let's talk about self-leadership and self-mastery. This is where self-leadership moves into self-mastery. And self-mastery isn't abstract. It is very specific. It is about mastering your mind. Because once your mind is anchored in the real you, your responses change. You stop reacting to situations. You start taking action from your center, from within. And when the mind is steady, emotions follow that direction. So there is a sequence. There's a deeper sequence. Let's look at this through the 4 dimensions of change, the BIMA methodology. Starting with the mind, because this is where everything becomes visible in the moment. Your thinking shapes your perception in real time. You can understand something clearly in one moment, and in another moment, your thinking shifts under pressure. But the shift doesn't come from nowhere. There is a sequence. It runs deeper than the moment itself. Your thinking is influenced by what is already stored within you. Repeated emotional experiences create patterns, and those patterns are held within the body. So when you enter a situation, the body already carries that memory. That memory influences how you think in that moment. Your thought forms through that filter. The thought gives meaning to what is happening. That meaning shapes your emotional response. And from there, you respond or you act. So, what you call a reaction isn't random. It is a continuation of what has already been stored and reinforced over time. This is why changing behavior at the level of action alone doesn't hold. All the four dimensions, what I call the four dimensions of change, need to be addressed and recalibrated, precisely as you would recalibrate the wheels of your car every time it goes for service. Now, let's look at emotions more closely. Emotions are often treated as something to manage directly, but they actually follow the mind. They follow what the mind is processing in that moment and what the body is holding underneath. If your thinking becomes uncertain, your emotions reflect that uncertainty. If your thinking becomes grounded, your emotions begin to settle. So, emotional stability isn't separate from mental clarity, it is the result of it. Okay, I'd like to say that again. So, emotional stability isn't separate from mental clarity, it is the result of mental clarity. Let's look at the body. The body holds the history of all your experiences. It responds before you even have time to think consciously. And you can notice this immediately. Your posture changes, your breathing patterns change, your tone of voice changes. These are all signals. They show you that something has been activated within you. The body isn't leading the decision, it is informing you, your mind, through your memory. Moving on to accountability to action. This is where self leadership becomes visible. In that moment, in the moment where you feel the shift, there is a point of awareness. And within that awareness, there is a decision. Do you continue the response that has already been set in motion? Or do you pause and return to your center? This is the practice of self mastery. I'd like to give you a client example. A client I worked with had reached a clear understanding of herself. Her decisions were aligned. Her direction was clear. But in certain conversations, particularly with people whom she knew from before, her thinking would shift. She would begin to question herself in the moment. The shift in thinking created hesitation. That hesitation created an emotional response. And from there, her behavior followed the old pattern. When we worked through this, we didn't go back to finding clarity. She had clarity. We worked on stabilizing the mind in the moment where the shift begins, while also recognizing what was being triggered underneath. Because this is where change becomes real. Once she recognized the shift in her thinking, she could pause. And in that pause, she could choose how to respond. You literally need a pause of milliseconds. But this is where you move from reaction to action. And if you observe, if you're aware, you will catch yourself in that moment when the shift happens. So instead of asking yourself why you're not consistent, bring your attention to the sequence. What is activated in your body? What thought followed? What meaning did you give that thought? And what emotion came with that thought? How did you respond? How did you react? Did you respond or did you react? This gives you something precise to work with. If you're recognizing this pattern within you, this is the work that I do. You can explore tools on my website. They're designed to help you track these patterns and understand them clearly in real situations. Please check the online growth and particularly tools for life. Let's bring this together. Self-leadership isn't about knowing, it is about how to hold that knowing in real time, to access it. It's about self-mastery. Self-mastery is the ability to stabilize your thinking while understanding what is happening underneath the surface. From there, your emotions align. Your body begins to respond differently, and your actions become more consistent. This is how you stay true to yourself. And when I think back to my aunt, that is what I recognize now. She wasn't managing herself in every moment. She was anchored in who she was. Her responses were consistent, and her presence didn't shift depending on the situation or the company. So the next time you notice yourself shifting, please pause. Bring your attention to your thinking and ask yourself what is influencing your thinking in that moment, because this is where direction begins. Thank you for spending this time with me on Unbox the podcast. If what you heard today resonated, please follow or subscribe. It helps more people to find this podcast. And if you're ready to go deeper, you can book a strategic discovery session with me. I will help you identify exactly where your alignment is breaking and how to stabilize it. Details are on my website, saharhunaidi.com. Until next week, show up, but stay true. Attention, flight away passengers. All right, let me say this properly. The next time you fly with Fly Dubai, you might hear a familiar voice. Yes, mine. Unbox the podcast with Sahar is now available on board. So imagine this. You're in the sky, somewhere between where you are now and where you are going, and at the same time, you're traveling within yourself. No downloads, no planning, just press play. And yes, I'm officially your flight companion now. So the next time you fly, let us travel together to new places, new thoughts, new perspective, and deeper awareness. See you on board.